Mhm.
we're at a good place, Isaiah. If you want to go ahead,
Mhm.
um, make sure we're all settled in and I can kick us off. So, thank you everyone for joining
Mhm.
us today. My name is Sarah. I do marketing here at Followup, and many of you already know Isaiah. He is on our
Yep.
customer success team. So sometimes there's little issues that he helps with, but most of the time he does a lot of the great work with onboarding and team trainings and just making sure that everyone is up to speed and getting the most out of their Followup CRM system.
Mhm.
With that said, there are some things that he hears commonly and he's been taking notes about, and he is the one
Mhm.
behind all of those wonderful support center articles. We have made a list today that we're going to go over with you of the 7 automations that every company needs in Followup CRM. The idea of having a CRM is that you hopefully have less manual work, right? You're not chasing down spreadsheets and following up with, hey, Bob, did you ever hear back from? Instead, you have this unified system where you can have shared notes, shared documents, and it's really clear who's supposed to be owning what, and you're bidding less to win more, as our tagline goes. So, some of these automations, we don't want them to intimidate you. We're going to break them down. Isaiah's going to get inside the system today, show you where you can easily set them up and give yourself more time to focus on what matters so that your business can continue to grow. So, Isaiah, with that lead up, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. Like Sarah said, we're going to be going over the 7 must-have automations for your company today. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and come over to the follow-up system here. And first things first, let's show you where automations are located. So most, if not all of you already know where automations are located, but for those who maybe have never had a chance to take a look at that, you just click on your name here in the top right, and you'll go to automations located right here in the drop-down bar. This is going to take you to this screen that we have here. You'll see my automations, company automations, and automations logs. So before we create our automations, I just want to cover the basic difference between the company automations and the my automations. So my automations will be automations that apply specifically to you. That means whenever you have this automation trigger, so whenever we want something to be done automatically in the system, my automations will only apply to when you do something in the system. Whereas your system admins, your owners, in your follow-up accounts are going to be able to create company automations, which apply for everybody in the system. All right, so just the distinct difference there. I'm going to be creating a couple of these in the My Automation section, and they're just going to apply. You basically do the same thing for the company one. So it's kind of interchangeable when it comes to training y'all on this. But with that, let's go ahead and get started. So the first automation I like to set up for any company as I'm going in and training people is following up after a project is won or a bid is sent, right? So let's say you're inside follow up, you go into a project and you're marking it as won, right? Sometimes people have sent a customized email over to the project contact. Hey, congratulations for winning this project. Here are the next steps, et cetera, right? Or however you usually like to do that. So I will go ahead and do that in the My Automations portion here, and I'm going to click Create in the top right. So the automation that I just described is considered an event-based automation. What event-based means is basically, hey, when I'm clicking this button in the system or I'm doing this in the system, I want there to be an action. I want the system to do this, right? So that's considered an event-based automation, triggers on a button press. All right. Since we're talking about something in the project page, which is that sales status, bid status, whatever you like to call it, we're going to click on project. So what we're setting up right here is called a trigger. So basically, this is going to be what we do in the system to trigger our automation to react. So we're going to say, hey, whenever a project is updated, and then we're going to add a condition. What in the project are we updating, right? And for this purpose, we're updating the sales status so that it is equal to one contract awarded, whatever terminology you use to determine that your project has been completed, the contract has been signed. And then as you can see here, we can also add multiple criteria. So if you have multiple phases where you say, hey, we don't just call it contract, we also have work orders, we also have service work that we put in our sales statuses and consider those as completed as well and what this automation is trigger off of, you can do that here as well. For now, we're just going to keep it simple and say, hey, whenever a project's updated and the sales status is then equal to contract, now we'll click next here at the bottom. And what do we want this automation to do? So like we said, we want this automation to email the project contact or the company contact, right? A customized email. And so we'll click email here. We're going to choose a certain person in the project we want to email, and we'll click add filter, and you'll see these options. So you'll see account manager here, sales rep, and owner. These are our user fields. So on our follow-up side, on this account, we call them account manager, sales rep, and owner. If you're using follow-up right out of the box, these are the fields that you refer to as account manager, takeoff person, and such like that, right? So the fields that have your users in them, your licensed users, that is. We also have the project contacts that you can email, which will be the contact on the external side who you're reaching out to. And we also have the company contact, first contact, which will be that field in the project information. Just to give y'all more of a visual view of what I'm speaking of, I'm going to go into a project real quick here. When the system is referring to project contact, it's going to be the contact that's located right here in this section. And when it refers to the company contact, that'll be the user here in the company information section, in this case, H11. That's going to be sent to the email. So you can choose whether you want that project contact emailed, company contact, account manager, sales rep, or owner in this case of this automation. We'll cover these other objects as well as we go through this webinar today. For now, let's go ahead and keep it simple and say, hey, I want to email the project contact when the project is won. The next thing you have to do is set, hey, what do I want to email them, right? And for that, we're going to add a template. So we'll click on the template here. You'll have any templates that are uploaded in your automations already here in the system, or you can create one from scratch. So we'll click new template up here. We're going to call this project one template. We'll type in the subject line of what we want that email subject to be. So we're going to say, congratulations, next steps. And then we can go ahead and start our template. You're going to notice these insert fields here. All that is when we click on one of these, it's going to go ahead and pop up a green box, just like this. And what that does is it fills in the information based on the field inside the project with the information that's in that project. So for example, in this case, there's no contact name, but if I was to put Isaiah test, it would say Isaiah test there, right? It will basically replace this green text with the information that is already in the project. So for this, we're going to say, hi, project contact first name. Congratulations on winning the, and we're going to say project name project. So congratulations on winning the test project after DB updated project. I know, super original name. Here are the next steps. And then, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And then you can add, for example, like I said, any of the fields that are in the project, if you have your phone number or anything. Your signature will also be included here, so you don't have to worry about entering in that. But like I said, any of the fields you have in the project, data information, if you notice, we also have custom fields in here as well. You can add to this template. You can
And that's similar to how people who've used the proposal generator would insert fields there as well.
Exactly, yes. Not just the proposal generator as well. Also, when you're in a project and go to compose email here, you also have templates available here that you can use as well. So multiple places in the system, like Sarah said, if you're familiar with proposal generator, this is the same way that those insert fields work. You'll
and
see
one
your
thing
template.
that I like to do on templates, Isaiah, is kind of put the date at the end. So we have last used here or last updated, which is super helpful. But I even like to put it in the template name and say, like, this is for projects one. And yes, you could put the exact date, or you could put July 2025. That way, you know that this month, if you do want to not just use this as your personal automation, but a company-wide automation to make sure everyone's more consistent, you are all going to the correct place.
Perfect. Yes, exactly. Great point. So we'll put July 2025 right here, project one template, and we're going to click this plus sign to add that template here. So with that, this automation is done. But let's say, hey, we want to add on to this automation, right? We don't want to have to create a new one. We want to say, we don't just want to email this project contact. we want to make sure that we have a follow-up date set in the project to 2 weeks from now so we can make sure that we're keeping in touch with them. We can actually add another action here on top of the automation. So let's say we don't just want to email the project contact this template. We also want to set a follow-up date in our sales activities, for example, for 2 weeks from now. So what I'm going to do is click add another action here. And instead of choosing email, I'm going to choose update. We're in a project, so we're going to update a project field. And we're going to choose that next follow-up date here. We're going to set it for a number of days from now. And we're going to say 14 days from now, let's say at 8 a.m. instead of 12, because 12 seems a little early. So now this automation has multiple things that it's going to be doing. It's going to be emailing that project contact. And so that you have something on your calendar to follow up, it's going to put that next follow-up date in the calendar for you as well. Last step, we're going to give this automation a name. We're going to call it Project 1 Automation. And then we're going to go ahead and save it. Now that this automation is saved, you're going to have it appear here, in this case, in My Automations. And the last step is just to turn that automation on. So you'll click on this button here to turn that automation on. You'll see the status updated successfully, and you are all good to go there when it comes to your first automation. Like I said, this is a personal automation. So in this case, it would just trigger when you are setting the project as one, or in this case, Isaiah Zamora is setting the project as one. If I was to enter this in the company automation side here, it would trigger whenever anybody set the project as one. So if it's something that you want your entire team to have access to, I would suggest either you as a system admin or champion or owner create that, or if it's somebody on your team, or if you're not a system admin or company owner, you can go ahead and ask them to create that automation with you.
Hey, Isaiah, we do have a question. They want to know, how are you notified of the follow-up? Is it on your dashboard, or do you get an email?
Great question. So when it comes to the follow-up, the way that we've set this specific automation, it's going to be based on who is the sales rep, account manager, or owner on the project. So whoever's listed in those user fields. So for example, if I put Alyssa here in as the sales rep, she'll have that next follow-up appear on her calendar, and Osama will as well. So whoever's listed in those user fields for that project will get this next follow-up both on their calendar here in the system, on their activities page as well. So this is just the calendar view here, the activities page that we'll have here. Obviously, I'm in Isaiah, so I won't see those specific activities here. And then if you have your external calendar linked as well, you'll see those activities there. So it'll be a sales activity. So just like you see your other sales activities, those will appear based on the user field inside the project. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and continue then. Actually, one thing I did not mention, and I do need to point out. So back to this automation real quick before we continue. When it comes to emailing, one thing that you'll have to note is it is going to be emailing from within the system. If it's in the My Automations, it's going to email from you. So you want to make sure two things. One, that your email is connected in the system, and two, that you have your signature set. So to check if your email is connected in the system, you'll click on your name, go to My Settings, and most all should probably have their email connected already, but you'll see linked email down here under User External Email. If you have these options down here, sign in with Google, connect to Office, etc., that just means you need to connect your email, choose your email provider, and then just enter in your email address and it will have you sign in. When it comes to your signature that's sending out, you're going to scroll up here to the top and click Edit Signature, and you can just pop your signature in here. Once you're in the automations page as well, so for example, with this template, if I go into a template, it's going to say at the bottom here, your signature will be included when you use this template, edit signature. And if you click on that, it'll take you to the exact same place so you can edit your signature here as well. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and continue. So let's talk about a second useful automation. So this automation is going to be automatically assign you to the estimator, account manager, takeoff person fields when a project is created. So if it's something where you find yourself forgetting to add yourself as a user in a project, we can have the system do that automatically for us, right? So let's say, hey, I'm Isaiah, and I'm always forgetting to put my name in the sales rep field, right? Instead of remembering that every time, writing it down a sticky note, pasting it on my computer, I can come here and say, hey, event-based automation project, whenever I create a project, and let's add no condition here, right? So whenever I create a project, it doesn't matter what type of project I create. I don't need any fields specifically triggered there. So I'll just click next. I want to update the project's sales rep field, and we'll scroll down for sales rep here, to be myself. And so what this automation is going to do is whenever I create a project, and I'll show you this in action as well, assign Isaiah upon project creation. It's going to go ahead and assign me automatically as the sales rep. So we're going to go
Yeah,
ahead
keep
and
that
turn that
name as
automation
simple as
on.
possible because hopefully a lot of
Oh
people are
yeah,
building automations in your system to eliminate those sticky notes. Just make very straightforward titles.
exactly. Automation. Let's just go ahead and save that. And you're going to notice it automatically assigned my name here as soon as I save the project without me having to enter that in at all. So we see this automation a lot when it comes to certain fields. Obviously, this is not just limited to the sales rep fields. You can have it do any of your fields in the project. If you only do a specific type of work, like additions or new constructions, you can have it automatically do that. You can have it add to any of your pre-selected fields, like, hey, automatically put the new project in new lead, right? Automatically select this lead source. And you don't just have to do that in separate automations either. You can add to that single automation that we created here. Just click on the pencil icon. Go to your automation actions. And then just click add another action. And let's say, hey, I don't just want it to do that. I want it to take that bid date and set it for 2 weeks from now, 14 days from now, right? We can have it do that as well. Now, not only does it assign me, it also assigns my bid date automatically as well. All right, so that's automation number 2. As I go on, if y'all have any questions, just go ahead and feel free to put it in the chat and we can get those answered as well as we're
Hey,
going through.
Isaiah, one thing about your first
Mhm.
automation that you covered, if there's something that you originally set up in My Automations, but you start to see that you're using it a lot and it
Mhm.
could help other people as well, can you copy that over to company automations?
So that's a great question. So my automation cannot be copied to company automations. And the only reason that is because company automations are only available for system admins and above, right? So it's something where it's just kind of a permissions thing. However, you can do it the other way. Let's say, hey, you see a company automation that you want to tweak slightly and add it to my automations. You can actually click this little paper icon here, right? That will show up also in the company automations. And I'll show you for this next automation as well. Copy it into your personal automations and adjust it to fit your use case, if that makes sense.
Okay, great.
Perfect, perfect. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Megan, great question. So you said you noticed your account doesn't have a sales rep line to fill out. So technically, that's just going to be any user field. So it doesn't necessarily have to be sales rep. So the default standard for these user fields, I believe, are estimator, account manager, and takeoff person. It's basically just going to be your user field. If you do want to add a field such as sales rep or anything else that's a user field that uses the licenses or the licensed users in your system, you can do that from your company settings page and just add a project custom field. But yeah, basically this sales rep account manager field, these are interchangeable with the current user fields that y'all are using, if that makes sense. All right, let's come back over to the automations page and go to the third automation. So this is going to be a sales activity reminder automation. Let's say you have sales activities in the system and obviously you get them on your calendar, right? You get them in your Outlook or Gmail if you coordinate it there. But let's say, hey, an activity is coming up in 5 days. I want to be notified of when that activity is due, or I want to notify my team in the case of automations, company automations, when that is due. We can actually set that in this system as well. Now, this is going to be a different automation. This is going to be what's called a time-based automation, since it's triggering based on a specific time interval. So we can go ahead and click on time-based here. We're going to change this from minutes to days. let's do weekdays actually, since we won't count Saturday and Sunday, and say, hey, I want this to trigger 5 days. And we're going to say, instead of after, before. And then you can even choose to have it trigger on a specific day or start to trigger on a specific day. So let's say, hey, I don't want it to trigger until Monday, right? Next Monday. I can go ahead and just click on that checkbox. Next Monday, we'll keep it at 12 a.m. Otherwise, I would just go ahead and change this. I like to change it just for peace of mind and knowing to the same day that we're on currently, even if I don't check off that box. So we're Thursday today. I just like to put that as Thursday. And this automation is going to say, hey, whenever a project activity is due 5 weekdays from now, right? And let's just keep it simple and say the proposal delivered activity is due. So 5 days before the proposal delivered activity is due, let's go ahead and email the account manager. And why don't we say, let's just email everybody on the project, account manager, sales rep, and owner, right? So not emailing any of the people or our project contacts, but just emailing internal individuals here. And then same thing, we're going to choose a template and we're going to create a new template and say proposal delivered, activity due, July 2025. We're going to copy this here, proposal delivered, activity due. And we're going to go ahead and use those insert fields again. So we're going to say, hi. In this case, we can say estimator, account owner. Let's just do account manager, actually. So hi, account manager. Excuse me. Proposal delivered activity for project name is due in 5 days. To make it really easy for you to follow up and see exactly which project is entered there, as opposed to having to search for it or go into follow up and search for it, you can even include a link as well. So there's an insert field called project, a link here. And if you enter this into your automations, it gives you a big green button that says go to project. You can click on that and it takes you directly to the project as opposed to you having to search it, right? We can
I
even
love that.
include
That's like
the due date.
automating the automation, because you don't want somebody to get this and then write themselves a note to, oh, later I need to look up the project. They can have one easy step here, click straight through and do what needs to be done.
Exactly. And it also eliminates the possibility of you clicking into the wrong project if you use similar names for multiple projects, right? Perfect, perfect. We're going to click the plus sign here. This has been created now. So we're saying, hey, email these 3 people on the project 5 days before that proposal activity delivered is due. And then what's nice is if I click save and, for example, forget to put an automation name, it tells me that in the top right as well. So proposal activity.
Yes, those fail safes are always
5.
helpful.
Exactly, exactly. And we're going to go ahead and save that automation. Like I said, for every automation, it defaults to off first. You'll just go ahead and click that toggle to turn it off. All right, let's keep on trucking by. So we're going to go ahead and talk about our 4th automation. And this is going to be an automation, another event one, and basically going to say, hey, whenever a project moves to a new status, I want you to alert the next person that's responsible for the next set of tasks to take action, right? So what we're going to say, for example, is, hey, if this project moves from new lead to estimation or bidding or something like that, that's usually when the estimator takes over, right? We're going to go ahead and email the estimator, hey, this project is ready for you, right? So we're going to go ahead and say event-based automation. It's project here again. And we're going to say, hey, whenever a project is updated and the sales status is equal to bidding. In this case, actually, we're going to add multiple scenarios to this. So not just bidding. We're going to say also if the sales status is equal to cold bid, active bid, or hot bid, since those are all bidding statuses, right? So if it's updated and set as any of these bidding statuses, we're going to go ahead and email the project estimator. In this case, we have it in this section as account manager, right? To go ahead and start their tasks on the project, right? So we can create a new template, call it project and bidding status. And this will be the same thing, hi, account manager. Project is now in, oh, whoops. now in, and then you can even put the sales status here, status, right? And then you can list out, hey, these are the generic responsibilities that the account manager needs to take care of. So you're not just limited to these insert fields, right? You can say, do this, do that, do the other thing, and then create that and send it as automation. We give it a name and say project in bidding status and save that. And that is another automation created there.
And this is another way to keep your team accountable, right? You're going to
Exactly.
have better relationships and more people are going to feel like they're winning if you have these automations set up. And so you're not relying on the individual as much, but you have it in a system that reminds people and things get where they need to go.
Exactly. Yes. Let's talk about now. We're going to do automations again. And this time we're actually going to do a contact automation. So a lot of what we see is people asking for automations for client re-engagement. Hey, I haven't talked to this client in, 45 days. They completely fell off the face of the earth. They messaged me and said, hey, what's going on, right? You haven't reached out to me. We're gone. We have automations that will actually automatically either trigger to email you to remind you to reach out to that client, or you can have it automatically email the client or contact with a pre-built email template. So I'm going to go ahead and click create here. This is going to be another time-based automation. And let's set it to 30 days. So we're going to say 30 days after. Since it's Thursday, I'm just going to choose Thursday here. And we're going to use company as the object, or sorry, contact as the object here. Let's say, hey, if this contact has either not been updated, you can say it's based on a specific activity, like, hey, if we've completed this activity 45 days after we've completed it and haven't reached out or put anything in there, like a follow-up activity. For now, I'm going to keep it simple and say, hey, this contact has not been updated. And if you want, you can even get more granular and say, hey, this contact's follow-up activity has not been updated in 45 days, or this contact's status hasn't been updated in 45 days. Or just keep it generic. If nobody's touched this contact at all, right, in 45 days, like we'll do here, I want you to go ahead and email the contact, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say email contact. And that's right, we'll create another template here, right? So these contact templates, if you'll notice, there's only 2 of them here as opposed to all the other project ones. That's because the project templates and contact templates are separate. So we're going to go ahead and create a new one and say client re-engagement and say just following up. Same thing here. Hi, first name. Actually, probably first name will be better as opposed to full name. So it sounds more generic, or it sounds more specific, I guess I should say. I haven't heard from you in a bit. Wanting to see if we can hop on a call and catch up. Put in your, if you have your signature here, automatically it'll put in that. But if you want, you can put in your phone number, your email, anything like that to this. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and keep this generic just like this and create it. And another thing I always like to do is add another action and put in a follow-up date. So even if they don't reach out to me, I have that follow-up date on my calendar and know, hey, if I haven't heard from them by this date, I get a reminder as well. So in this case, let's say we go ahead and update the contact's next follow-up date to, I don't know, let's say 7 days from now, right? And that way, not only do we email the client, but we know that 7 days from now, we're going to have a calendar activity that says, hey, make sure that you followed up with this client, right? It's going to pop up on your calendar, both in the system. And if you have your calendar connected outside of the system, it'll show up there as well. We're going to call this client re-engagement. Engagement. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and save that. Like I said, since I'm creating these in the company automations, this is going to trigger for everybody in your system when it comes to these 3 automations here, as opposed to my automations, which will just trigger for you specifically. All right, so that is 5 automations down, 2 to go. Let's go ahead and keep going along. So I'm going to go ahead
If
and
you
go to
have
our
any
next
questions, go
automation.
ahead and put them in the chat. and
Yes.
we will be sure to get to them at the end. But I like the pace we're moving at. Keep it up, Isaiah.
Awesome. Glad to hear. So here we go. So next, automation. So one thing that I find a lot that happens and that I love that we've added as automation is, let's say we have projects that are won, projects that are lost or dead. And if you notice, if I come over here to the projects page and go into any of these projects that are created, just to show you, I think actually this DB update will have one here. You're going to have activities here, right? That people just forget to complete, right? These boxes are unchecked, so they have not been completed. They're still going to show up on calendars. If I come over here to this activities page, and let's say we just set this all time for the company, our activities here can get bloated with activities that were probably done, could be up to a year ago, right? So how do we get these activities cleared? You see those 2024 ones in there, right? All the way back here. How do we get these activities cleared or make it so that we don't have this issue going forward after we get these cleared? You can set an automation to automatically clear these activities for you. So I'm going to come back over to the automations tab and let's create a company automation that'll do just that. Let's call this clear follow-up activities. So we're going to say event-based automation. Whenever a project is updated, let's say the sales status is equal to any sales status where the project is done, right? So you're no longer updating follow-up dates, project-based, or no longer updating client meetings or proposal delivered. So let's say anything that's in contract, let's say in progress in terms of the work is being done, right? Or moved over to an ERP in this case, if it's lost, or if it's closed. We're going to say, I want those follow-up dates cleared out of there so I don't have to go in and manually do that, right? So we're going to come down here. We're going to choose the next follow-up activity. And you'll notice we have fixed date, number of days, and we're going to choose clear date and time. And we'll save that. All right. When I turn this automation on, that means as soon as we have the project updated as won, lost, dead, completed, etc., right? That next follow-up date is automatically going to clear for me. I find this helpful because when it comes to next follow-up dates, a lot of y'all's system is set up to not have a checkbox next to that next follow-up date, because the idea behind that, right, is that you're always following up. So obviously in this system here, you do have the checkbox. A lot of you don't. So if there's not a checkbox here, sometimes people forget you have to click this X and clear the follow-up date. Well, now you don't have to worry about that. The system will do it for you. All right. One other thing I want to point out as we're doing this, you'll notice any automations that are triggering, right, will actually show you that they're triggering. So if you have a hankering, hey, this automation may not be working, I don't see it doing anything, you can come over here to the automations log and it tells you every automation that's been triggered, the date and time that it is triggered, and then more steps as well, such as old value, new value, etc. Right? It tells you if it's an email or an update and what project that's for, if it's for a project. So you'll see anything in your automations logs here when it comes to automations being triggered. All right, last automations, and then we will open it up to any questions that y'all have, is going to be sending an email
Last
when
but
a
not
project
least.
has been outdated. Yeah, exactly. Let's
Okay,
say we're
drum
going to send an
roll. Say it
email.
again, Isaiah.
You
What are you
ready,
going to
man?
cover?
We're going to cover when a project has not been updated in an X amount of days. So the last one's going to be a time-based automation. And the reason I want to show this one is because I want to show you that you can also exclude certain fields from automations. And that'll make more sense as I go through the specific automation here. So we're going to say, hey, I want this to trigger if a project hasn't been updated in 30 days, right? So we're going to say, hey, 30 days after starting today, if a project has not been updated, I want to email the account manager estimator. And I know you're thinking, but wait, Isaiah, I don't want this to trigger if the project's already won, because obviously if it's won or dead or closed, right, or declined, it's not going to be updated in 30 days. It's going to be quote unquote archived, right? So I can actually set exclusions. So for example, let's say, hey, I have this project or this automation. If it's not updated in 30 days, but let's go ahead and exclude certain sales statuses. So I don't want this to trigger if it's already in contract, right? I don't want this to trigger if it's already lost, and I don't want this to trigger if it's already closed, because we're not going to go ahead and be updating these projects anymore, right? Once it's completed, we're all good to go. Once it's lost or closed or declined, it's all good to go as well. So what this automation says now is, hey, 30 days after a project hasn't been updated, excluding if it's in contract, lost, or closed, I want to go ahead and trigger this automation. Now, you're not just limited to sales status IDs. You have all these fields here that you can choose from, your follow-up dates, your custom fields, phone, email, cell, products and services, all that good stuff in here, right? So depending on your criteria, you can set that in that exclusion field as well. For now, we're going to go ahead and click next. And we're going to say, hey, if the project hasn't been updated in 30 days, I want you to go ahead and email the account manager. And just to throw it in there, so let's say, I'm just going to pick a random one here because I think you all know how templates work by now. We're also going to say, hey, I don't want to just email the account manager. I want to email a specific person that handles these projects not being updated, right, in your system. You can actually choose this user box here and choose a specific person to email. So let's say, hey, I want to go ahead and email Christian and make sure that he knows that this project hasn't been updated either, so he can follow up either with the client or with the account manager. I can do that here as well. So I've emailed Christian, I'm emailing the account manager, and then I'm going to go ahead and save this project. We're going to go ahead and call this sales status not updated in 30 days. Save that. Oh, I forgot to add a template. There we go. I'm glad it reminds me there so I don't leave anything open-ended. And that automation has now been created. So we've gone through these 7 automations. Any questions when it comes to these automations that we've set up? Any questions about automations, time-based or event-based in general? One thing I do want to point out, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Megan. You mentioned before that there's an open time each week where people can check in for questions or help. What day, time is that, and how do we contact you? Great question. So if you do have questions for automations, even after this call or any questions in general, you can click on the help button here in the bottom right and click on office hours. I'm available for office hours every Tuesday from 10 to 11. So you'll see that scheduling there, and you can just click on those date and times and schedule right there with your information.
Thank you
All
for
right.
showing that, Isaiah. And I dropped the
Of
direct
course.
link inside of the chat as well
Awesome.
for anyone who needs it. Okay, that was a
Perfect,
lot of
perfect.
information. I understand if people are digesting it still. You don't
Mhm.
have to get it all right now. Okay, this was a broad overview. Some of them you might say, like, yeah, I'm not going to use that. And other ones you're going to be like, wait, I need to see that like 5 more times to get it. We understand. That's why we're recording this, and it'll be sent out to you. We will also be putting up a blog about it. We'll send it out in the product email at the end of the month as a reminder. Here's my challenge, though, today. Is there one of these, just one of the 7, that you could implement before the end of the month? It doesn't have to be a long term solution, but I think you should challenge yourself, try it. There's really nothing to lose, right? You could see that it saves you time every single day, or it makes your team less frustrated because they don't feel like they're nagging each other about things, right? There is only the upside to implementing one of these. And I think you could easily just test it out. And then maybe you like it so much, you layer it on top and you just see if maybe all 7 work for you. Okay, here's a good question from Matthew
Mhm.
Frizzle. He said, is there a way that we can see what automations are working in the logs are ours and not the entire company's? So just how do you differentiate between the two?
That's a great question. So for that, it's actually going to be just on the automation name. So if you see on the left-hand side here, you will have the automation logs when it comes to the names of your automation. So I would suggest if you want to put a unique identifier in there, for example, assign Isaiah upon creation dash MF for Matthew Frizzle, right? You can go ahead and put that and use that as an identifier for your automations. And then if you are looking for a specific date range as well, you can actually set that date range here to look, hey, did any automations trigger July 17th? 2025 and click apply and see that here as well, if that makes sense.
Yes, I love the idea of using your initials, using the
Mhm.
date. It's like you want to keep
Yeah.
it simple yet unique. We do have a couple of
Mhm.
questions in the Q&A section, Isaiah, if you want to track
Okay.
along with me there. So the first one
Yes.
says, I have created an automation to follow up on bids 7 days from the bid delivered activity. When I set the
Mhm.
automation to email the estimator, I get duplicate emails. What would be the reason for this?
That's a great question, Jim. So let me come over to the project page. So let me think of that scenario real quick. I've created an automation to follow up on bids 7 days from the bid delivered activity, and I get duplicate emails. Hmm, that's a great question, actually. I'm going to have to check on your specific scenario, so we may need to meet. The only thing that I can think of is if the automation's set to email multiple fields. So, for example, let's say it's set to email sales rep and account manager, and we have, for example, somebody in
The
both these fields.
same.
So, if we say, hey, I want to email the sales rep and account manager, and in this project, Christine is both, it would go ahead and send duplicate emails in that case.
Yes, thank you for letting us know that's
Mhm,
happening. It sounds like a unique scenario. So Isaiah will
mhm.
follow up with you after this.
Yes.
Did we drop the link to the YouTube webinars? Yes. Let me put that in this chat as well. The nice thing about the Q&A section is that I can answer directly. Oh, that's
Mhm,
the Calendly. So I'll make sure that you have that link. And then I think that's all the direct questions we have right
mhm.
now. If anyone else has a final thought, we will give you a moment, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Mhm,
Like we said, we hear these kinds of questions often. People are like, I love follow up, but I know that there's more I could be doing or using.
mhm.
Help me get educated on it. So that's why we have these reoccurring webinars the third Thursday of every month to make sure that our customers are successful. Thank you for logging in today. Go ahead and mark your calendars for next month. Let's see, the third Thursday is going to fall on August 21st. And that is really going to feel like the end of summer. But we
Oh, yeah.
proved to our point earlier that we've got people joining us coast to coast. Isaiah, thank you for your time. Like always, not
Anytime.
only today talking to this large audience, but the one on one conversations that you have every day as well. All
Awesome,
right,
awesome.
that'll be
Great
a
to see you
wrap.
all. Yep, have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.